Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bella V TV and Lost Suitcases, Souls Driven by Wanderlust. I'm Valerie Pennington, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking to probably someone who has traveled more than anyone that I have ever met. In my Zoom room today, we have Dr. Larry Basch. He is coming to us from Oregon today, and he is at the Oregon Institute of Marine Biology at the University of Oregon. But that is not the only hat he wears. He is a science advisor for the U.S. National Park Service in Hawaii. He does a lot of work in Hawaii. He's all about marine biology, coastal land management, fisheries science, natural, oh my God, the list goes on. So I really appreciate your time, Larry, to join me today. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Valerie. It's a pleasure to be here. And just one slight correction. I was
Please.
a science advisor. I was a science advisor in the past, but now I'm just at the university and doing teaching and consulting.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Thank you for that.
Sure.
So I asked Larry to come on the show. Actually, truth be told, he was my TA when I was an undergrad at the University of California at Santa Cruz. Go banana slugs. And we really haven't crossed paths much since then, but we follow each other on Facebook. And I have to say that last year, Larry had sort of the year of travel of a lifetime. And that is actually what prompted me to get in touch with him, which I'm so glad I did, because you traveled like nonstop for how long exactly?
Just shy of a year.
Okay, so you took a sabbatical. And like, what was your, like, did you know you were going to be gone that long when you left, or was it kind of an open ticket? Or
it was a one-way ticket. And I really went, unlike I've ever traveled before, without any plan to speak of, other than a short list of countries that I knew that I was interested in seeing. I had up to a year, and I ended up taking almost all of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is exciting. I've had a couple of those trips too, where you get a ticket and you show up somewhere and it's like, well, I hope this works out. And so the problem that Larry and I had was that in addition to his trip last year, he has been pretty much everywhere. I think you're the only guest other than myself who's actually worked in the Antarctic. So there's that. And it was really difficult for us to decide what he should talk about today, because every place has such an incredible story. And you want to tell us why you chose your India piece here?
Sure. You know, as you might imagine, trying to figure out a story to tell from a whole year of travel was pretty challenging. But both my personal life and my professional life have sort of converged on similar paths in the sense that my interests are in the natural world and natural sciences, but also in the cultural world and how those two, natural and cultural, really blend together. And it's such a driving force for me that I thought, okay, what story would I like to tell that could combine those two? And that's why I came up with what we're going to talk about today, and that is a little bit of an exploration of what's called the Char Dham. And the Char Dham in Hindu roughly translates to 4 small abodes. And these are extremely remote sites in the Himalaya of India. And they are among the holiest sites for Hindus anywhere in the world. And they're also set in incredibly beautiful natural landscapes.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm in. That sounds perfect. You want to take us there?
Sure.
Are we ready to go?
Okay. Ready to go.
Cool.
Okay.
I'm excited.
So there we go. Share.
There. Perfect.
Okay. So just to orient you physically, this is India, obviously, the Indian subcontinent. And the state that we'll be in today is called Uttarakhand. As you can see, it's in far northern India. It's bordered by China and by Nepal. And let's go to the map of Uttarakhand. So let's see. There we go, just a sec. There we are. So here is Uttarakhand, and the base for all of these journeys is a wonderful town, which we'll see in a moment, called Rishikesh. And Rishikesh is famous in modern times for something that's a bit of a surprise. But I'll sort of outline my route very quickly. So we went from Rishikesh in the in Uttarakhand through the Rudraprayag district. Now these roads look like they're really fine. They look like, you know, like a map here in the States. But
no, I've traveled in India. It doesn't look like that.
These are dirt roads for the most part. Yeah. And they're very rough and windy and mountainous. So we headed up from Rishikesh first to the Valley of Flowers. So that'll be our first stop. It's a national park, and as you'll see, it's gorgeous. And then we went to the first of the Char Dham sites, which is called Badrinath. And it's an ancient temple from the 16th century, one of the holiest sites in Hinduism. And then from Badrinath, took a long way through Chamoli, Gopeshwar, all the way to Gaddarnath, which is another remarkable place. And then because of the fact that this was near the end of the monsoon, and as I recall, and very rainy and a lot of flooding and landslides, we had to go all the way back to Rishikesh in order to continue. Mm-hmm. So we did that, and then we headed up to the Uttarakhand district, all the way up to a place called Gangotri. And Gangotri is at the headwaters of the Ganges River, or as I now call it, the Ganga, the Mother Ganga, named after the goddess Ganga. And then after Gangotri, went to the headwaters of the second most holy river in India, called the Yamuna River, to its headwaters in Yamunotri. And these rivers go for hundreds of miles. The Yamuna, for example, goes past Delhi and through much of the country. So it's quite a spectacular place, as you'll soon see. So this is Rishikesh on the Ganga. And while there, I, as many other places, met up with fellow travelers, including this woman here. Her name is Divya. And we met in a cafe with some other people that were traveling, and we both discovered that our goals were very much the same. We both wanted to visit the Char Dham sites. So we decided to travel together, and for part of it, to travel together with some other fellow travelers. So we're starting out here in Rishikesh. This was the original ashram, or school, monastery, if you will, for the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. You might remember back in the 70s, Transcendental Meditation. This was built by the Maharishi back in 1961, and it's more commonly known as the Beatles Ashram, because the Beatles came and stayed here and wrote a lot of music, actually. So today it's in ruins, and it's a nature reserve. But what really attracted me was the fact that there are holy cows, but also the architecture, and particularly the artwork. The place is sort of reverted to an open public space where artists from all over the world come and create these original pieces of art. So I'm just going to go through these, and at the same time, we'll see bits of the ruins as well. The place has been abandoned for a number of years, but this was the building where they printed a lot of the information for teaching Transcendental Meditation. And I just found it an incredibly sort of magnetic sort of place. It really pulled me in. Beautiful.
Yes, that's beautiful.
And the art, of course, is very, very bizarre, I think. But I just found it very compelling. So I'll just go through some of these very quickly.
Wow. And
I can't say what inspires a lot of this, but each artist is inspired by his or her own muse. The grounds are, I think, beautiful. This is the kitchen area. This is one of the gathering halls. Wow. And of course, all the artwork came much, much later. This is the main dormitory, which building I just found really fascinating.
Oh, that is beautiful architecture.
And that's my friend Rico from Japan. She was traveling with us for a while. And then this is the top of the same building. But you turn a corner and you see these, what I consider to be really magnificent pieces of art.
That's
and a lot
amazing.
of them are inspired by different spiritual beliefs.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I think I may be going a bit too fast, but and obviously the artists mean certain things. There's certain amounts of symbolism, but there weren't there for me to interview, so I don't really know what their inspirations were. Then of course the Beatles came, and they were inspiration for a lot of the art. There's the Maharishi himself, and this is where I ran out of battery for the first time. This is the cottage that the four Beatles stayed in. And obviously it's open, and you can walk through and pretend you're having conversations with Paul or Ringo or George or John. I just thought it was a very, very fun place.
That's cool.
We were so energized that we decided to walk through Rishikesh, seeing some of the local inhabitants. Very picturesque. This is an example. These are Hindu pilgrims. They're called Shiv pilgrims, and they follow the god Shiva. Mm-hmm. And this time of year, they are everywhere by the tens of thousands. And this is only a small group. And also monkeys everywhere.
Oh, yes.
And Babas. Babas are holy men. Mm-hmm. I met a lot of Babas on my trip, to say the least. My friends invited me to go to what's called an Arty ceremony. And the Arty is practiced every night in many parts of the country, but the Arty ceremony on the banks of the Ganga has particular spiritual and holy significance. And these women here are making offerings or prashads. These are marigolds. And you can buy these for very little. They have flowers. They float on a piece of banana stalk, and they have a piece of incense as well. And you can say prayers. You can send well wishes, loving kindness to ancestors, to your family, your friends, anyone who may be ill. I think it's a beautiful custom.
It is beautiful, yeah.
And then, of course, they bathe in the holy waters of the Ganga. Pilgrims come from really all over the world. Mm-hmm. And then this is the Arty ceremony. These men are what are called pundits, not like political pundits in our world, but they're basically religious officers in the Hindu religion. They're functionaries, and they conduct the ceremonies, which I happen to think is very beautiful because there's all kinds of loud singing and music, and then later on dancing and so forth. But I found it very compelling.
Wow.
And it's always around sunset. So after that, we knew the next day we were starting to head up into the mountains, and we crossed the bridge back to where we were staying. And then very early the next morning, we crossed the same bridge and caught the first of several buses. And you've been to India. I don't have to tell you, there's no comparison between the buses there or most other places in the world.
No.
A lot of them are pretty rickety. One of them actually was falling apart while we were driving, and so you could see the floor separate and see the road.
There's a lot of prayer involved, and there's also never really the question of whether more people, animals, or objects can fit on the bus.
Yes,
that's not really a question
limit.
that you ask. Yes, there is no limit. Yes. Yeah.
So we
that's
became
my favorite.
Very, very friendly and intimate with total strangers sitting, on your lap, basically.
Yes, yes.
So,
and the animals, the chickens. Yeah. I held a chicken for a fairly long stretch of the journey.
Yeah. So here, these are just along the road, a couple of boys waiting for the school bus, and then just scenes from the road on the way up.
Wow.
So obviously the roads have to follow valleys, and the valleys are carved by the rivers, and the rivers are incredibly powerful. So the first place that we went to, at some point you have to get out of the bus, find a small town, and many of these towns and settlements are only seasonal, and the only reason that they're there are for tourists, and the bulk of the tourists are pilgrims. So this is coming into a little settlement near the Valley of Flowers, and it's called Govindham. It's way up in the Himalaya, and as you can see, it's pretty isolated. What's curious, and I find common to all of these small towns that cater to pilgrims, is that they're lined along the main route with small shops that have various sorts of religious art and things for offerings, bottles to collect holy water from the rivers, and of course food. And these are super common. And then the main way you get around, I'll go back really quickly. This is my friend Akshit from Pune near Mumbai. And so you go by foot, you go by horse or mule, or you get carried by a Sherpa. Now, these guys look like they're all refreshed and everything, and they are, but their comrade was pretty tired. Wow. And he's sitting in the basket that carries people, that he uses to carry people. His friend here is also kind of exhausted.
Wow.
So a lot of footbridges and a lot of suspension bridges. And here we are, we're starting to enter into the Valley of Flowers. And it's glaciated, and if I'm not in the ocean, this is where I want to be, this sort of place. Uh-huh. So the geology is spectacular. In many places, this isn't a great example, but in many cases, you can see the uplifting and the tilting that occurred when plate tectonics moved the Indian subcontinent and it collided into the main Asian continent. Mm-hmm. So dramatic geology. And this is my friend Divya, basically fulfilling a lifelong wish to go to these places. Oh. Very, very deeply spiritual for Hindu people. Mm. And I was just fortunate enough to tag along. So this is just a little map of the Valley of Flowers, just to remind us of where we are. The weather, it is what it is. Sometimes it's glorious, other times it's raining and foggy and quite cold, even in the summertime. And this was about a year ago. Now, one of my favorite things is natural history. And even though I'm not a botanist per se, I appreciate plants. And as you'll see, in particular, wildflowers. But as well, the geology, which is just really stark and to me, breathtaking. Yeah. So we start with the flowers. And some of them look kind of familiar, wild roses. And some look completely foreign, like they're from another planet to me. So I'll go back and forth between different landscape views of the valley and some more close-ups of some of the flowers themselves. Wow. Now, obviously, the Indian continent and much of Asia has been inhabited for thousands of years. So there is wildlife. It's a little bit more shy than what we're used to in North America and in Europe, but it is there, but you very rarely see it. So we focus on things that don't move around quite as much.
Wow.
And one thing that I've found really impressive is that here we have trails, but there they have trails, but they actually pave them with the stone at hand. Everywhere you are. I think it's just because there are so many pilgrims and such high foot traffic that everywhere would be basically a mud bath otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. This is beautiful.
I highly recommend it. I would go back in a heartbeat.
What elevation were you here?
I I
Like
should have thought you'd
ballpark? Do
ask
you have,
me. It's I would
uh-oh.
say it's probably in the 3 to 4,000 meter range.
Okay.
Yeah, still considered the foothills.
Yeah. Yeah. The foothills. Everything's relative, right?
Yeah. And I
Oh,
particularly like lilies. This is a
that's
lily that's not in bloom
great.
yet, but um, and it is
Oh,
indeed quite a valley of flowers.
yeah. Oh, these are beautiful. Oh,
And I should
wow.
say that going here, it's so far and so remote, and the way the going is so rugged that I went with a very tiny little teardrop shaped little day pack. So I didn't even carry my SLR. All I had was my iPhone. And so all of these photos are with the phone and not with a,
Wow.
fancier camera.
Yeah.
This is, I laid down here and took a nap.
Oh, beautiful. You should definitely send these to Apple for their next, their promo here. That's gorgeous.
Yeah, and so we had to walk up this, and then of course we had to walk back down. And this is Divya.
What a picture.
She's a remarkable young woman. She's a doctoral student in sociology, studying the role of women in the high-tech workforce in India, and all the cultural, social changes that are happening with that.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I've seen some wildflowers before, like down in the desert in California, but nothing like many of the things that we saw.
Well, here you have, it's so incredibly lush. And like you say, the geology is just breathtaking. I love the weather that you had. It's so ethereal, and it's, yeah. I can, indeed. Even just looking at photos on a screen, it's very meditative. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm.
So did you plan to be here exactly at this time? Because obviously you were there at what looks like the perfect time for the bloom.
Planned loosely, yeah.
Okay.
It was more a plan of convenience.
Okay.
And we knew that we weren't going to be there at the very peak of the bloom, but it definitely did not disappoint.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks, that might be perfect. I found that sometimes if you do go during those peaks, it's so crowded. It's like you can't go to Japan during, sakura,
right,
cherry blossom time, because, there'll just be thousands of people around one cherry blossom. And it's like, okay, this is ridiculous.
And you'll get photos of a lot of the backs of heads.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So this is Gangria. This is the small village that's sort of at the base of the Valley of Flowers. And we did a side trip to Gurudwala, which is a Sikh temple, which was also very interesting, but in the interest of time, we won't go there.
Okay.
One of the things that was happening while we were there is that it, like in the States, the rural electrification that happened in the 1930s and 40s. Right now, they are stringing internet cable in the most remote, out-of-the-way places in India. So this is what this guy is doing.
Gosh.
And as you can see, they're using the highest levels of technology they have available.
Oh my. That is something. That's a little bit ominous, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, everywhere you go along the frontier in India, there are these signs along the road that say, "Bro welcomes you." And finally, I turned to my friend and I said, "Who is this bro guy?" And she said, "Oh, that's the Border Roads Organization. It's part of the Indian Army." So,
really?
Mystery solved.
I did not know that. Okay, that's great.
So this is a typical entrance to a small mountain village. It's called Mana, and it's just south of the border with China. So you can almost throw a stone at China.
Wow. And
we're on our way now to the first of the Chardham sites, and it's called Badrinath. So this is Mana village, and just to give you an idea of how sturdy the houses are. And they need to be, because most of the year this place is covered in many, many meters of snow. But during the summer, it's occupied and it caters to the pilgrims.
Okay.
And this is one of the very holy sites. These are some Babas in a cave. And it's right next to these stones here that you can't really see, but the stones are over this cascade, and they're two separate stones, and they call them the kissing stones. There are several other names, but I like the kissing stones.
Yeah, I like that too.
And this is another Baba that we met. At first, he had a very unfriendly looking demeanor, but then as soon as you smiled at him, he was just like sunshine. And then just to show you that, there are some tractors, but there are certain places you can't bring technology. And so
Sure.
it's very, very much very primitive in terms of technology. So as I mentioned, China is very close by, and there are constant tensions as associated, but you don't really feel it as a traveler. So just down the river a little way is Gaddarnath. And unfortunately, my phone ran out of battery shortly after we got here, so I only got a very few photos. But a couple of things to show.
It's gorgeous. That is just so picturesque.
These are waterfalls just shooting right out of the hillside.
Oh my gosh.
And this is the temple right here. And this temple is from the 16th century. It's one of the holiest sites in Hinduism. Here you can see these cascades.
Oh.
And just a brief aside, this is Franz Jacob. He's a student of philosophy from France, and he's been teaching for several years in Athens. He's also a remarkable artist. And when I met him, he was working on drawings.
Oh,
and
wow.
He also does a lot of extremely abstract things, but also is a realist. And these are all pencil. This is Gaddarnath Temple. And just for comparison, this is what the temple looks like. I'll toggle back and forth a little bit.
That's gorgeous. That is spectacular.
He's a remarkable artist.
Wow,
and,
yeah,
and,
he is.
And one of these fellow travelers that you happen across who is it's like, oh my God, another remarkable human being.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's one of the best reasons to travel, right? It's the people that you meet along the way.
That was a new lesson for me, Valerie. When I started traveling, I thought, I want to see these places. I want to have these experiences. I want to experience the cultures and the foods and what have you. But really, the icing on the cake, what the big surprise for me was the people. And
yep.
I made many friends. We're in touch daily. It's amazing. Thanks to social media. So just toggle back one more time, just so you can appreciate that.
Yeah, that is incredible.
And then unfortunately, I ran out of battery.
Well, so much for my idea. So much for my idea about the Apple commercial gig. You're not going to be able to sell that.
No, that's true.
And then we ran out of battery, as always. Woo.
But it was with my old iPhone, and it wouldn't happen with my new one.
Okay.
which is a much better camera also. So
the cameras on phones are getting incredible. Yeah. Oh, well, this is beautiful.
Yeah, and this is just on the road leaving Gaddarnath to the base camp for our next destination, which is called Gaddarnath, also very high up in another valley in the Himalaya. And again, there are lots of ways to get there. But Gaddarnath is from the 8th century, also one of the highest holy sites among Hindus. And it's very long distance to get there, very remote, and pretty arduous journey. And you can see pilgrims of all ages are trying it. And here's this woman on horseback. But you'll notice she's wearing rubber slippers, like in Hawaii. And she's wearing a little plastic raincoat. They don't go out for the high-tech gear the way that we might. They make do. I'm gonna get rid of that if I can. Sorry.
Wow.
So on the way to Gaddarnath,
Oh,
we had to cross a number of different glaciers. And I need to go back here. Okay. And
Oh, wow.
pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
But since they're constantly moving, which they naturally do,
Mm-hmm.
and because the climate is warmer, they're moving faster. They're constantly having to maintain the path so that it stays open. But you'll notice some of these pilgrims are in bare feet. So they're hiking 15, 20 kilometers in bare feet. And it's very common. And they're wearing shorts.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of stream crossings, and then we get to the temple at Gaddarnath. Now, this is my favorite of Franz Jacob's drawings. To me, it's an amazing likeness of the real thing.
Oh, wow.
Again, I'll toggle back.
Yes, yes. Oh, wow.
But he took photos, but in many cases, he sat for days at each of these places.
I believe it.
So this is a very, very solid structure, and there's almost nothing around it. And the reason I learned from another friend of mine is that not too long ago, there were massive floods and landslides. And everything around this temple was completely swept away to bare ground. Wow. This was the only thing remaining. It was completely untouched. And that added to the holiness of the place.
Sure, absolutely.
So,
wow, the crowd.
It's at the base of a glacial valley. And so everything was, just huge amounts of rock fall, just, thousands, if not millions of tons of rock just came and just sort of like a parting of the river just came and went around it. And there was not even a scratch on the temple itself.
That's incredible.
And of course, it's the thing that myths are made of, but it really happened.
Yeah.
So here's Divya. We're ready to go inside, and you cannot photograph or film inside of any of these holy places. But a prasad is an offering. It's a holy offering. So just before we go inside, and then at all holy sites, you will find babas, holy men, and many pilgrims. I'm not sure of the symbolism of this, but it's pretty formidable looking.
Yeah.
It's some kind of very, very shiny metal. And then there's a bell here, and supposedly if you can pick it up and ring it, it brings you great, good fortune, good karma, basically. So of
course, did you try?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we both got to ring it. It's pretty heavy.
Okay.
So you can see here how this glaciated valley came down, and now they've rebuilt a small town below it with restaurants and guest houses, but otherwise it was just completely wiped out.
That is unbelievable. Just like an island of tranquility amidst what must have been an extremely tumultuous event. Wow.
Yeah. And so now we're off again. So we've been to Badrinath and Gaddarnath, and there are two more Chardhan sites. So we're now heading to perhaps the holiest, and that is called Gangotri, at the headwaters of the Ganga. So more buses, more shared Jeep taxis, and then a lot of walking.
Okay.
And this is Franz Jacob's likeness of the Gangotri temple.
Jeez.
And I think you'll agree, it's a good likeness.
Oh, man. Does he have a collection of these? Does he share them anywhere, sell them? I mean, that is unbelievably gorgeous.
I think so too. I don't know if he sells them. He teaches philosophy for the most part, but he does have them on his personal Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to have to connect me with this guy. That's incredible.
So here we are. We've been slowly making our way further and further up the Ganga River. And now we are in Gangotri. It's a very small village. and it's extraordinarily holy. You see Babas that come and live there when it's not buried in snow. They live in caves, and you'll see that shortly. But another thing about Gangotri is it's considered to be the home of Lord Shiva, the god Shiva. Mm. And I'll show you the place where supposedly, according to myth and legend, the Ganga originates from his forehead.
Wow.
And that's right around here.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So this Baba had all sorts of great stories about Gangotri, and he insisted on hosting us in his cave, and food and drink and smoke, and
wow.
Very interesting. And just to me, it was fascinating. I'd never had an experience quite like it before. Mm. But then he took us to his master. And I apologize, this is not a sharp image, but it's the best I could do in almost complete darkness.
Darkness, yeah.
It's hard to convey the feeling that one can have in a place like this, but it's pretty powerful.
No, Larry, that's actually a great shot. I mean, it captures a lot. That's an experience that most people would not have. That's remarkable.
Well, one of the things that I found that became my mode of travel is basically follow my nose, be open to any and all experiences, including meeting people that can broaden your horizons even further, and with their local knowledge or people they know, and so you can get in pretty deep, and oftentimes if you're open to it, in not much time.
Yeah.
So this is the symbol for Om, which is everywhere, and it's part of a many different chants and actually several different languages, but it has a lot of spiritual significance, and this just signifies that under this rock is a holy cave. Mm. Now, this is the forehead of the god Shiva. Wow. Or at least one of the ones that's interpreted to be that. That's what we were told. And
wow,
it's at the village now. The Ganga, actually, the source of it, where it comes out of the ground, is actually 18 kilometers further upriver, at a place called Gomok village, where it comes out from the bottom of a glacier. It was our goal to go there, and we didn't find out until we got there that the only way to get there was impassable, because there's one footbridge, and it was unsafe. They closed it off. The national park rangers and the army were guarding it. We tried to sneak around, but no luck. This is Lord Shiva himself living in his mountain abode, and very, very powerful. And this is his yard, basically.
Wow. Oh man.
So this is
gorgeous.
The entrance to the national park, and right there is a small temple, right here, and you can see the river down below. And we just found it to be a very, very meditative place. There are constantly ceremonies going on. There are pilgrims that are kind of trickling in and out, and it's considered an extraordinarily holy site, even though it's not. It's very modest. It's not ostentatious at all. And there are some flowers and other plants that we're familiar with from other parts of the world, but a lot of these have medicinal and spiritual uses as well. So as you can see, the path is quite good. It's paved with local rock, and it's constantly being worked on in one place or another. The elements are pretty rough on it.
Yeah. Mm.
And we did a little scrambling and rock climbing that was really fun, right above the river.
Wow.
And this again is Gangotri Temple. And just to show you another example, this is again the abode of Shiva and his family. And you know he's right basically right below his chair up in the mountains.
That's a mighty nice place to be, I must say.
Yeah,
that's magnificent.
And as we talked about a little bit in the beginning, Valerie, there's a real lack of separation, a real inseparability between the natural world and the cultural and spiritual world. Mm-hmm. And so this is just one example. This is an altar, with offerings to Shiva and to some of the other gods and goddesses, right on the banks of the Ganga. Mm-hmm. Mm. We did manage to sneak a little bit further upriver, but then we were politely asked to turn around.
Oh, that's beautiful, though.
And this is a place I really want to go back to.
I can see why.
So now we're back on the road, and you can see these terraced hillsides where they grow mainly rice, but other crops as well. Mm-hmm. And you see this all over much of India and many other places in Asia. And there's something about this, the way that this landscape is sculpted by human hands, that I find incredibly attractive.
Yeah.
And you meet a lot of interesting characters along the road, a lot of very colorful personalities. So now we're on the very last leg of this part of the journey, and this is the temple at Yamunotri, at the headwaters of the Yamuna River. And again, one of Franz Jacob's beautiful drawings.
Jeez.
Incredible. And this is
oh
what
my
the real
gosh.
thing looks like. So I'll toggle again.
Yeah.
For the last time.
Oh, remarkable.
And what's very interesting about this place, aside from the topography and the landscape, is that there are hot springs near the headwaters. And they've channeled some of them so that they actually have a bath, which I'll show you, a hot water mineral bath. And I was told that if you bathe in these waters, that there are two benefits to it. One is it cleanses you of all sins for all time. And second of all, it protects you from an untimely and excessively painful death. So I was all in.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Yeah. So just to give you
oh
an
my
idea,
gosh, that is just.
And these are little tributaries that are coming down to feed into the main stem of the Yamuna, right above the temple. And you can see the ridges and a little bit of a glacier up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and this is the temple itself, and there's an ashram there for some of the monks, and a very small seasonal village that caters to the pilgrims. And I should say that I was the only Westerner that I saw on the entire stretch of this part of my journey. And this is at night, so it's not very sharp. Likewise, this is the bath that we went into, and it was lovely.
You're gonna have to let us know how that all works out.
Okay, you're on.
Sounds good.
So now we're coming to the close of this story here, and yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, Larry, that is absolutely incredible.
Glad you enjoy it.
I think I speak for a lot of people when I say I needed that. I think we all need something like this right now. I think it's difficult today with everything that's going on, all the different crises that are going on all over the world, that, we will get through this, and that the world is an amazing, beautiful place filled with incredible human beings.
I'm really glad you said that. And if we've brought a little bit of a distraction from the day-to-day and a little bit of beauty into the lives of the viewers, then that makes me very happy.
Yes, you absolutely did that, without question. And I think this is a good time for me to just say, on behalf of everyone watching, Larry, thank you so much for that much needed respite. And it was extremely inspiring. I think that that's an extremely inspiring part of the world. And man, you managed to get up to some places that looks pretty difficult to get into. And I think a lot of folks will be very motivated when this pandemic is all over to check it out and maybe plan a trip and go see for themselves. I really hope so. But thank you so much for taking the time to share this with us. This was really meditative and beautiful, and I feel so rejuvenated. That's a good word.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to share with you. And I'll just close on one comment, and that is, while it is challenging to get to places like this, it's doable with a little bit of patience and persistence, and the understanding that things are not always going to go smoothly.
Cheers to that. Yes. And actually, when it doesn't go smoothly, that's often when the magic happens. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to thank all the viewers for tuning in today. Thank you so much to Belavie TV for hosting Lost Suitcases. Everybody, we've got to keep our suitcases in storage, but tune back in for more virtual travel, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for being with us today. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.